It was a bright Friday afternoon in March 14th, 2003. This was the day that I was born to a family of middle-class income Chinese immigrants in Costa Rica. Both my parents had come to Costa Rica from China in search of something that many of you may know as the American dream. But instead of the United States, this wasn't Costa Rica. They arrived in Costa Rica with nothing but big dreams and an even bigger willingness to work hard. My dad, he was a high school dropout. He came to Costa Rica when he was 20 years old because his aunt had started a business in Costa Rica and she wanted him to come and help her out. After a couple of years of doing this, he decided this was not for him. And instead, he decided to pursue a career as a chef. So he went out, he learned how to cook and worked in many restaurants. Eventually, he saved up enough money to open up his very own restaurant. On the other hand, my mom came to Costa Rica when she was 17. She had to abandon her dreams of becoming a teacher and come to Costa Rica, as my grandpa had originally come to Costa Rica and never went back to China. So my mom wanted to come and convince him to go back, but eventually she ended up staying. Both my parents had to put on hold their dreams of pursuing an education and a professional career, but the power of resilience stayed strong within them. Eventually, they met, fell in love, and here I am. Now, whenever I tell people that I'm from Costa Rica, they always say that I don't look like I'm from there. And I know, it's because my parents are Chinese. But then, they always ask me very similar questions. They ask me if Costa Rica is an island. Maybe, do I live in a treehouse? Do I live in the jungle? And my favorite one of all of them is when they ask me if there are any monkeys in my backyard. I hate to break it to you, but there are no monkeys in my backyard. And Costa Rica is actually a country. And it's a country that I'm very proud of, which is ranked as one of the happiest countries in the whole world. From a very young age, I used to live on top of a Chinese restaurant. And from the age of around 12, I was working in this restaurant, helping out wherever I could. Whenever I would come home, I would open the doors. And the strong smell of Chinese food would hit me. And I would hear the chatter of customers coming in and walking out. In high school, my friends all told me, "Oh, Max, it's so nice that you get to live on top of your family's restaurant. You get to enjoy all that delicious Chinese food." Well, I won't lie, the food was delicious. However, there were many times that tested me. Since I started working in the restaurant from a very young age, I was very overwhelmed and unaware about what to do whenever a customer came up to me, complaining about their food, whether it tasted weird or it just wasn't hot enough. And sometimes they would even threaten to sue my parents due to child labor, because me and my brother were working in the restaurant. But here is where I learned one of the most important lessons of my life. Success isn't really measured by societal standards like wealth, status, power, but instead is measured by impact, hard work, and resilience. Growing up, I didn't really conform with the conventional idea of success that society had imposed on me. I grew up in an Asian household, and there was a very strong pressure to succeed academically. I remember one day I went to school, and I got my test results back for my math test. I looked at the grade, it was a 90%. I was so happy. But then, when I went home and showed it to my parents, my mom picked it up. She looked at it, and she said to me, "Max, why did you only get 90%? Where's the other 10? You need to try harder." And then she also said to me, "When I was your age, I would have to climb a mountain and swim across a river just to get to school, and I would still get better grades than you." This exact moment encapsulated the expectations that I grew up with. Both my parents wanted me to be able to achieve the best in my life. They wanted me to have the life that they could never have. Go to school, go to university, be able to graduate, find a successful career, and be financially stable. At the time when I was growing up, I wasn't really your typical Costa Rican kid. Other kids, during the weekends, their free time, they would do whatever they loved. But in my case, I was working in the restaurant. I was managing customers, dealing with their complaints, and just learning the ins and outs of running a business. At first, I resented this, as I felt that I was missing out on what it meant to be normal. However, this was my turning point. And I realized that success is not just about getting good grades or climbing up the corporate ladder. My new definition of success isn't just about what you can achieve in life, but rather what you can leave behind. Growing up in Costa Rica, I was privileged enough to attend a private school. Back home, the public education system, although good in many ways, it lacked in others. It wasn't like countries like Canada or the US, where the public education system and the private education system is very similar. But back home, the private education system was way better. So I was able to pursue an IB diploma, and that's how I applied to universities in Canada. Once I approached my senior year, and I was deciding where to apply to university, I set my sights on Canada and the Sauder School of Business, which is one of the most prestigious business schools in the world. Once I got my acceptance letter, I accepted it, but this decision did not come easy, as I had to make a very rash decision. I had to leave everything I had ever known behind. My culture, my friends, my family, even my dog. Just to fly across the world to a country that I had never been to before, Canada. I had only seen it through pictures, heard it from stories. I was stepping into the unknown. I had no idea what was going to happen. Would I be able to fit in? Was I going to succeed? Was I going to be able to make friends? I had no idea. Then, once I arrived to Canada, I remember it was during the winter. And this was very new to me. As in Costa Rica, there's only 2 seasons. There's either rainy season or dry season. It's not like other countries where there's 4 seasons. And I arrived during January and winter. Once I stepped outside the airport, I was freezing cold, as I did not own a winter jacket. And then I arrived at the university. Suddenly, I wasn't the kid that lived on top of his family restaurant anymore. Instead, I was navigating one of the top universities in the world, surrounded by people that knew exactly where they were going, or at least looked like it. This exact situation challenged me to step out of my comfort zone. It challenged me to grow in ways that I could never have grown if I were to stay in Costa Rica. Now, let's take a step back and reconsider. What does it mean to be successful? Is it maybe the diploma on your wall, the title on your business card, or could it be maybe something more personal or meaningful? This year, back in March, I had the privilege of spending the day with the CEO. His name was Raghav Gopal. He is currently the CEO of M Square Media. Throughout the day, we were able to have many insightful talks, but one of them struck me the most. It was when he told me his life story, his journey, as he had immigrated from Fiji to Kelowna, but originally he was working on the farm in Fiji. And when he was young, he couldn't even afford his own education. But through resilience and hard work, someone was able to notice him and offered to pay for his education. So he pursued a bachelor in computer science, eventually graduated and decided to immigrate to Canada. Here, he offered someone at a software company to work for them for free for a month. And after this, he decided to embark on his own journey and open his very own company. It was one of many. He was able to sell many companies, and one of them specifically was a tech company. Back in the day, Kelowna wasn't the city that we now know. Currently, Kelowna is one of the most entrepreneurial and technological cities in Canada and in the world too. But Raghav was one of the ones who sparked this change. His success did not really come from just starting many businesses, but instead his success came from being able to transform a whole community and create opportunities for others. This exact journey also reminded me of that of my parents, and that success is not a one-size-fits-all concept. My parents took a huge risk by leaving China and coming to Costa Rica to start anew in a new country. They built their business not for fame, not for recognition, but rather to provide us the sustenance to our family and create a sense of community and opportunities for the Chinese people in Costa Rica. So I invite you to think again about what success really means. In a world where success is measured by societal norms like wealth, power, titles, can we redefine it in a way that's more personal, more fulfilling? Can success be about fulfillment, impact, and making a change in this world? One thing that has remained constant throughout my life is resilience. This is the ability to rise above challenges and be able to adapt to them. My parents exemplified this to me from a very young age and passed it down. Whether it be in the kitchen of our restaurant, managing customers, dealing with their complaints, or just managing my own responsibilities. Resilience has shaped who I am today. One of my professors at UBC defined resilience as the ability to adapt to stressful situations and challenges and be able to cope with them. But resilience is not just about enduring hardships, but rather it also involves learning from these hardships and being able to grow from them. When we think about rethinking success, we also need to consider resilience. Resilience is not just about survival, it's also about thriving and rising up when the odds are stacked up against us. Whenever we consider our goals, our desires, we don't often consider the legacy that we want to leave behind. Success isn't just about achievements, but rather the impact we want to make in this world and in other people's lives. For my parents, their business, the restaurant was not just a business, but rather it was a way to provide for our family and create a sense of community in a foreign land. For me, success is about making a difference in this world, whether it be through business, social causes, or just being a source of support for people around me. Success is not an individualistic concept, but rather it involves the collective and how we contribute to this collective through our own unique journey. Throughout my journey, I have been able to find out that there are still many pieces of the puzzle left to solve, more experiences to have, more knowledge to gain. As I continue with my aspirations, I have noticed that success is not a destination, but rather, as I mentioned previously, it's a journey. It's personal, it's ever evolving, and it's connected to the people and places that surround us. And it is through these connections that we find our true definition of success. So today, I want to leave you with this. Think again about what success really means to you. Is it the way that society defines it? Or could it be something maybe more personal? And can you redefine it in a way that is more connected to your own values, your own story, and the impact that you want to make in this world? Thank you.